Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, February the 19th. Pretty active weather pattern continues across the nation. We have the continuation of El Nino enhanced storm systems coming in off the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean into California and impacting the rest of the West Coast. It looks like that will continue for the next several days and probably a continuation of that kind of an active pattern out west for the next few weeks or so. Florida had a pretty heavy rain event late in the weekend. That storm system is pulling away off to the north and east out over the western Atlantic. And it looks like a pretty active frontal passage coming to the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. later this week, probably around Thursday night or so, late Thursday and early Friday. Mostly a rain event for the mid-Atlantic region. Certainly can be some snow, maybe even some accumulating snow up across New England Thursday night into early Friday. And that frontal passage will usher in quite a cold air mass to begin the upcoming weekend across the northeastern states of the nation here. Before we look ahead, let's take a look back at the storm system that hit the mid-Atlantic region on Friday night into Saturday morning. Quite an interesting storm, to say the least. Certainly busted with the snow forecast in the DC metro area. I was thinking more on the order of 2 to 4 inches, 3 to 6 inches. Ended up a coating to an inch or so. Would have been the best forecast. 1.1 inches at Dulles. And the Philly forecast turned out pretty close to what I was thinking, maybe 3 to 5 inches on average across Philadelphia and the suburbs. New York City, quite a dichotomy. If you're just on the south side of town, you got inundated by a heavy snow band. 10 inches, for example, in Brooklyn, just 2 inches at Central Park. Now, this is the very interesting feature that you can see here with the snowfall amounts here. A mesoscale heavy snow band set up, and we'll talk about that over the next couple of minutes here, and it dumped as much as a foot of snow in that part of the mid-Atlantic region. Well, let's take a close look at that mesoscale heavy snow band. Heavy snow bands are not at all unusual for snowstorms. Vast majority of snowstorms, at least in this part of the nation, involve some mesoscale, small scale, heavy snow bands. That's one of the main reasons why it's a difficult thing to forecast snowfall in the northeastern part of the nation, with these quite variable snowfall rates depending on where you are underneath or nearby these mesoscale snow bands. This is the radar image as of 9:25 on Friday evening. And first of all, it was definitely a warning sign. Here's the Washington, D.C. area right in here. It was definitely a warning sign by this time that the snow was just not filling in. It was really having a hard time making it out of West Virginia into the western part of Virginia. That was kind of an early indication that my snowfall forecast was not going to materialize in D.C. It turned out basically they just did not get as much precipitation as I expected. What did fall was generally in the form of snow. Even BWI came in with a brief report of heavy snow with 1/8 of an inch of visibility, but just far less precipitation than I thought. And again, a coating to an inch or so. Meanwhile, look at what was happening here at 9:25 on the radar. Pittsburgh was reporting some heavy snow at this time, and here is the band that started setting up early in the evening, and then this is later in the evening, basically moved in this fashion right here, and anywhere in this small scale area could have received as much as 8, 10, 12 inches of snow all the way to the New Jersey coastline here with this mesoscale snow band. And again, we emphasize the very strong upper level jet streak that can enhance upward motion, and it's not too surprising to see a mesoscale snow band. The trick, though, was to predict exactly where that would set up. It certainly set up maybe a little bit farther north than I would have anticipated. Nonetheless, here, this is in the cold air where those snow to rain ratios were really high, maybe 12, 15 to 1, as compared to down here over DC was closer to the 10 to 1. And again, they had less total precipitation down in DC. But this was quite an amazing mesoscale snow band that set up, and again dumped as much as a foot of snow right along this path, all the way from western PA, between Reading and Allentown, all the way to the east central coast of New Jersey. Well, let's now look ahead. We're looking here at the 10-day total accumulation forecast of precipitation. This is liquid equivalent precipitation. So in some cases this will be in the form of snow, in most cases in the form of rain over the next 10 days from last night's 0Z run of the GFS. A lot of rainfall out here across the west coast, California. Those low-lying areas will continue to get pounded by some heavy rainfall. Inland, this will be generally in the form of snow over places like the Sierra Nevada mountains of eastern California. So again, a continuation of a stormy pattern for the U.S. West Coast. A lot of heavy rain over the weekend. Florida, that has moved to the north and east, that particular system, dumping now over the next couple of days out over the open waters of the western Atlantic. Meanwhile, a lot of rainfall here over the Midwest showing up. In some cases, it will be in the form of snow, and a lot of that associated with this active frontal system that will move in from the northwest to the southeast late in the weekend here Thursday night time frame or so, and then producing some rainfall in the mid-Atlantic region as well. And we'll focus in on that frontal system over the next few minutes. But this is the total forecast map for the next 10 days. Now, let's shift to the total snowfall map for the next 10 days. And here we go again, the Sierra Nevada mountains right here getting pounded again, eastern California. And again, we've mentioned this is always important for them to build up the snowpack this time of the year because it acts as a source of water during the summer melting season. This snow melts and provides some important water to much of California during the summer and fall season. A lot of snowfall over the Rocky Mountains, those higher elevations across the Rocky Mountain states from Colorado all the way across Wyoming and Nevada and Utah and Idaho. A lot of rain, a lot of snowfall over the next several days. Meanwhile, not much at all over the Midwest here, but you can see northern New England indeed get some snowfall, and that could be associated, at least in part, to that cold frontal passage late in the week, Thursday night, Friday time frame up across the New England area, but not too much at all in the I-95 corridor region of the Mid-Atlantic. Now let's take a look here at the 5-day average, the mean of the 500 millibar height anomalies using the ensemble run of the European model from last night, 0Z ensemble run of the European model. We'll go out in time. This is the current 5-day period, a trough here over the western Atlantic associated with that system that dumped a lot of rain on Florida. And here comes one of these California, these Pacific Ocean storm systems into California over the next few days. And we'll continue to move forward and watch the overall pattern here evolve into one that features a large-scale upper-level ridge over eastern Canada and a large-scale upper-level trough over Alaska and the west coast of Canada. This tells you a couple of things here. First of all, Alaska, very likely to become colder than normal, and much of the eastern half of the nation warmer than normal. Usually this time of the year, if Alaska is colder than normal for a sustained period of time, that means the eastern U.S. is unlikely to be colder than normal, and certainly this reflects that. I think next week will overall be a pretty warm week compared to normal in the eastern half of the nation. The next several days, season will be cold, places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, but next week likely to be warmer than normal for much of the time. There certainly are some cold air masses around that will move into the eastern U.S. over the next few weeks. It's certainly not the end of winter. There will definitely be some cold air masses to deal with and plenty of storms to deal with over the next few weeks. But this pattern, as we move into the early part of March, is more conducive to above normal temperatures over the eastern U.S. Again, I think next week should be quite a warm week relative to normal, but stormy and cold out along the northwest U.S. coast and west coast of Canada, and colder than normal in Alaska. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps from the 0Z GFS, and here's that low pressure area now over the southwestern Atlantic. Produce a lot of rainfall over the weekend out over Florida. Now let's move forward in time here, and we will see this system move away. Let's clear the deck here, and here comes that California system. Again, a lot of snow, those higher elevations of the Sierra Nevada and eastern California. A lot of rain over the low-lying elevation areas. This is as we begin the day here on Monday, February 19th. Chilly weather over the northeastern states, but plenty of sunshine, not only today, but likely tomorrow and Wednesday as well throughout the Mid-Atlantic region, northeast U.S. Seasonably cold conditions. The main area of precipitation over the next few days out over the western U.S. Again, the Rocky Mountain skiers should be quite happy with a lot of snow over the next several days. Here we are on Tuesday, and then we'll move into the middle part of the week. Here's Thursday. And remember earlier we saw decent amount of rainfall over the next 10 days over the Midwest. Well, that's partly contributed by this cold frontal system that moves in on Thursday. This is Thursday morning forecast map, and it's quite an active frontal system. Here we go. By the time we get to late Thursday night, Friday morning, this frontal system, and it's a cold front, moves south and east. Decent amount of rainfall over the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, very little snow in the Mid-Atlantic region, if at all, with this frontal passage. But you get up in this part of the northeast U.S., and indeed there can be some snowfall. We'll move forward here. Here we go into Friday morning, and then Friday afternoon. The front moves off the coast. Again, some accumulating snow possible upstate New York, New England late in the day on Friday, and that's low. It starts to intensify, and that could enhance the snowfall over places like Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. The rest of the country pretty dry here. Then we get into the upcoming weekend, and this is indeed a cold air mass here into the northeast U.S. by the time we get to the early part of the upcoming weekend. This is the Saturday morning forecast map, and here we go, the beginnings of the next storm system from the Pacific Ocean that will move into California probably late into the in this upcoming weekend, into the early part of next week. But a cold blast arrives in the Mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. By the time we get to Friday night and Saturday, with temperatures below normal for much of the weekend. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.